Frozen whispers. Once upon a chilling winter in the heart of the remote Alaskan wilderness lay an isolated cabin known as Frostfall Haven. Its walls whispered secrets of old as the snow-covered pines stood sentinel around it, casting long shadows that danced in the pale moonlight. The Matthews family had sought solace within its walls, unaware of the malevolent force that awaited their arrival. James Matthews, a rugged and determined man, had convinced his wife Sarah and their fragile son Ethan that a winter retreat in the cabin would heal their fractured family bonds. As the frigid winds howled outside, James stoked the fireplace with fervor, determined to create a haven of warmth and comfort for his loved ones. However, within the confines of Frostfall Haven, an unsettling presence slumbered. A sinister energy, ancient and forgotten, whispered dark thoughts into James's mind. The isolation and bitter cold began to seep into his soul, and soon his demeanor changed. His eyes, once filled with warmth, turned distant and calculating. The sinister influence had found its vessel. As days turned to nights, James's behavior grew increasingly erratic. He became consumed by paranoia, convinced that unseen eyes were watching their every move. His conversations with Sarah took on a frenzied quality as he rambled about hidden agendas and nefarious plots. Ethan, his innocent eyes wide with fear, clung to his mother, desperate for her reassurance. One fateful evening, as the shadows stretched long across the cabin's wooden floor, James's demeanor shifted from restless to violent. A flash of malevolence crossed his eyes as he cornered Sarah, accusing her of conspiring against him with the very presence he had grown to fear. His voice, once a comforting melody, now dripped with venomous suspicion. Terror gripped Sarah's heart as her husband's hands closed around her throat, his grip fueled by a force beyond his own. She fought for breath, her vision fading, until a primal instinct for survival surged within her. With a strength born of desperation, she broke free from James's grasp and fled into the snowy night, her breath leaving crystalline clouds in her wake. The forest swallowed her, its gnarled branches seeming to reach for her as she stumbled through the snow. Panic-stricken and disoriented, Sarah's movements led her closer to the frozen lake that lay like a silent abyss. In her haste, she slipped on the icy surface, crashing onto her back with a bone-jarring thud. As she lay there, her breath ragged and misting in the air, Sarah could feel the sinister presence closing in. The moon cast an eerie glow on the frozen lake's surface, revealing dark shapes moving beneath. The ice crackled, and with a chilling finality, it gave way beneath her weight. Sarah plunged into the icy depths, her frantic struggles creating ripples that distorted the moonlit reflection of the cabin. The water's icy grip seemed to pull her downward, while above, the cabin's windows glowed with an unnatural light. Ethereal whispers mingled with the cold currents, echoing James's descent into madness. And as the last bubbles of Sarah's breath escaped to the surface, the cabin watched in silent triumph, its malevolent hunger sated. The cabin stood silent, its windows aglow with a sickly green light that contrasted starkly against the surrounding darkness. Inside, James's mind had become a battleground, torn between his own memories and the malevolent force that sought to control him. His sanity teetered on the edge as he wrestled with the whispers that urged him toward unspeakable acts. Ethan, now left alone in the cabin, huddled beneath a threadbare blanket. His small frame trembled as the wind howled outside, and the distant echoes of his parents' voices still haunted his ears. The innocence of childhood had been replaced by a suffocating fear that seemed to seep from the very walls around him. The sinister presence, having claimed its hold on James, reveled in the chaos it had wrought. It fed on his anger, amplifying his darkest impulses. James's hands, once tender and nurturing, now clenched into fists of rage. He stalked through the cabin, his movements a mix of desperation and cruelty. Ethan's wide eyes followed his father's every move, his heart pounding in his chest. He had always seen his father as a protector, a figure of strength, but now he was a stranger driven by malevolence. The air was thick with tension as James's footsteps drew nearer and Ethan's breath caught in his throat. "Come here, boy," James growled, his voice a guttural whisper that sent shivers down Ethan's spine. Tears welled up in Ethan's eyes as he backed away, his voice trembling as he pleaded, "Daddy, please, what's happening?" James's lips curled into a sinister smile as he advanced, the sinister force urging him forward, The fragile thread that held his grip on reality was fraying, and the impulse to hurt the one he loved most grew stronger. Ethan's only refuge was the window, through which the moonlight cast a faint glimmer of hope. Summoning a last surge of courage, Ethan turned and fled, his footsteps echoing through the cabin. He burst through the door, his small form disappearing into the swirling snow outside. The blizzard's icy embrace was preferable to the looming threat within. Desperation fueled Ethan's flight as he stumbled through the snow-covered woods, his small figure nearly swallowed by the darkness. The wind bit at his cheeks, and his breath came in ragged gasps as he searched for a way out of this nightmare. Back in the cabin, the sinister force roared in frustration, its hold on James slipping for a moment. The struggle for control raged within him, as fragmented memories of warmth, laughter, and love fought against the relentless tide of malevolence. As the night grew colder and the storm raged on, the cabin's malevolent presence grew desperate. It had lost its grip on Ethan and was losing its hold on James. With a final surge of energy, it unleashed its fury upon the very walls that had held it prisoner for so long. The cabin trembled as if it were alive, its creaks and groans mingling with the storm's howling. And then, with a deafening crack, the walls splintered and collapsed, sending shards of wood and debris into the frozen night. The sinister force, released from its prison, dissipated into the darkness, leaving only echoes of its malevolence behind. In the aftermath, the blizzard slowly began to subside, revealing a world blanketed in snow and silence. The ruins of Frostfall Haven stood as a haunting reminder of the horrors that had transpired within. And somewhere out there, amidst the desolation, Ethan clung to life, his small figure a testament to the resilience of innocence in the face of darkness. Ethan stumbled through the snow-covered landscape, his breath visible in the frigid air. Every step was a struggle, his small frame barely able to withstand the biting cold. Fear had turned his cheeks rosy red, and his fingers felt numb as he clutched the tattered blanket that was wrapped around him. His heart pounded like a drum, not only from the physical exertion but from the terror that still gripped his young mind. The memories of his father's transformation and the cabin's malevolent presence haunted him, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. As he wandered deeper into the woods, the moon broke through the clouds, casting an eerie glow on the snow-covered trees. Shapes seemed to dance in the shadows, and the wind whispered secrets that he couldn't quite make out. Ethan's steps slowed, uncertainty replacing his initial urgency. Suddenly a distant sound caught his attention. It was a voice, faint and almost ethereal, echoing through the woods. It was a melodic whisper that seemed to pull at the edges of his consciousness. With a mixture of curiosity and trepidation, Ethan followed the sound, stepping deeper into the heart of the forest. The voice grew louder, its haunting melody echoing around him. It seemed to be coming from a clearing up ahead, where a circle of gnarled trees stood like sentinels. In the center of the clearing, a figure stood draped in shadows. The moonlight painted its contours, revealing a delicate face and piercing eyes that seemed to glow with an otherworldly light. Ethan's heart raced as he stared at the figure, a mixture of fear and fascination swirling within him. The voice spoke again, its words carrying a strange sense of familiarity, as if it had been whispering to him all his life. "Little one, do not fear," the voice cooed, its tone both soothing and enticing. "You have faced darkness and now you are free." Ethan's voice trembled as he responded, "Who are you?" The figure stepped forward, its presence enveloping him. "I am the guardian of the woods, the one who watches over lost souls and broken spirits. You have fled the grasp of malevolence and now you have a choice." The memories of his father's transformation, his mother's flight, and the cabin's sinister presence flooded Ethan's mind. He felt a mixture of sorrow and anger, but also a newfound determination. "I want to be strong," Ethan whispered, his voice barely audible above the wind. "I want to protect others from darkness." The figure smiled, its eyes shining with approval. "Then, little one, you must remember this place. The woods hold secrets that only those who are willing to listen can hear. You have the power to transform pain into strength, fear into courage." Ethan nodded, his resolve firming. He would embrace the lessons the woods had to offer, and he would honor his mother's memory by becoming the protector she couldn't be. As the first rays of dawn began to break through the horizon, The figure's form began to fade, melting into the surrounding shadows. Ethan felt a sense of peace settle over him, a connection to the world around him that he had never experienced before. With newfound purpose, Ethan turned and walked back through the woods, his steps steady and resolute. He would face the challenges ahead, armed with the strength he had discovered within himself and guided by the lessons of the guardian of the woods. And as he disappeared into the snowy landscape, the whisper of the wind carried a melodic echo, a promise that the woods would always be there, watching, guiding, and protecting. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel for more stories. Your support means the world to me, and it helps me create more great content for you. Until next time.